People rarely notice the small things. But he did. And that changed everything for her. Amora never imagined that a simple moment in the middle of an ordinary day could shift something inside her. She certainly never expected him to be at the center of it. She had always been the quiet one in the room, polite, steady, the type who seemed fine even when she was anything but. Most people saw the surface and moved on. But he didn't. The moment it happened, she felt as if the world paused just long enough for her to realize she had been wrong about something. Wrong about how invisible she thought she was. Wrong about what people did and didn't pay attention to. And especially wrong about him. His name was Rowan. He worked in the same building as her, just 2 floors above, but they rarely spoke beyond simple greetings. He always seemed calm, composed, almost distant. The kind of person who carried quiet certainty everywhere he went. But on that day, something about him felt different. Or maybe something about her did. It began in the lobby just before noon. Amora was holding a stack of documents against her chest, trying to steady them with one arm while adjusting the strap of her bag with the other. She had barely slept the night before, and it showed not in obvious ways, but in the small, private cracks she assumed no one could see. Her hands trembled slightly. Her breathing felt a little too shallow. Her voice, if she had spoken at all, wouldn't have sounded like her. No one noticed. Why would they? People rushed past her in the lobby, focused on their schedules, conversations, and buzzing phones. But then she heard a quiet voice beside her. Amora, wait. She stopped. It took her a second to understand that Rowan was the one calling to her. He stepped closer, not abruptly, not intrusively, just enough to show he had been paying attention. He looked at her for a moment with an expression she wasn't used to seeing from him. Gentle. Focused. Concerned, but not overwhelming. You're holding your breath, he said softly. She blinked. No one had ever said that to her before. Not friends. Not co-workers. Not even the people closest to her. But he said it like he knew. Like he had been watching her long enough to notice the tiny things she didn't think anyone would ever catch. She tried to speak, but her voice felt stuck somewhere in her chest. Rowan shifted the documents from her arms into his own, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Let me help you, he added, still calm, still gentle. Amora didn't understand how he knew. How he saw what she had been trying so hard to keep hidden that she felt overwhelmed, tired, and stretched thin in ways she didn't know how to explain. How did you notice? She whispered. He hesitated for a heartbeat. Then he spoke with the kind of honesty that almost made her sit down. Because people only hold their breath like that when they're trying not to fall apart. The words hit her harder than she expected. Not painfully, just unexpectedly. Like someone finally turned on the light in a room she had been stumbling around in for too long. For a moment, she couldn't look at him. No one ever noticed things like that about her. She didn't know if she should feel exposed or grateful. But he didn't push her. He didn't ask questions. He didn't make the moment heavier than it already was. Instead, he simply walked beside her toward the elevators, holding her documents as if it was the simplest way to lighten her day. When the elevator doors opened, he waited for her to step in first. The lobby noise faded. The world grew quieter. Then Rowan said something she never expected. You don't have to explain anything, he murmured. Just, don't carry everything alone. Those words stayed with her long after the elevator reached her floor. They lingered in her chest, warm and confusing, like a feeling she didn't know how to name yet. She didn't know why he noticed. She didn't know why he cared. And she didn't know why his voice was the first thing that made her feel seen in a very long time. But she knew one thing. That moment was the beginning of something she wasn't prepared for. And she could already sense that whatever came next, it wouldn't be small. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. The real shift, the moment that would change everything between them, was still waiting just around the corner. Some moments stay with a person long after they pass. But for Amora, that moment in the elevator stayed with her for the rest of the day. She kept replaying Rowan's words in her mind. Not because they were dramatic or poetic, but because of how simple and sincere they were. Don't carry everything alone. No one had ever said it to her like that. Not with quiet certainty. Not with the kind of tone that sounded as if he truly meant it. For the rest of the afternoon, every time she glanced at the papers he had helped her carry, she felt something warm settle inside her. She tried to shake it off, but it stayed. Gentle and steady. She wasn't used to someone noticing her struggles. She wasn't used to someone paying attention. And she certainly wasn't used to someone like him doing it. Rowan wasn't distant, exactly. He was just, reserved. Calm in ways she could never manage to be. He spoke with quiet confidence, always measured, always composed. People respected him, yet he never tried to stand in the spotlight. He had this steady presence about him, like a lighthouse in a foggy harbor. Always there, always bright, even when no one asked for it. But she never imagined that presence would turn toward her. Late in the afternoon, Amora found herself at her desk, staring at her computer screen without really absorbing the words on it. Her mind kept wandering back to him. To the softness in his voice. To the way he looked at her as if he wasn't just seeing her face, but everything behind it. She sighed quietly, pinching the bridge of her nose. Her co-worker, Marin, peeked over the partition. Long day? Amora managed a small smile. Something like that. Marin tilted her head. You look different. Not bad different. Just distracted. Amora quickly shook her head. I'm fine. But Marin squinted at her in that old friend way that said she didn't fully believe it. Still, she let it go. Amora returned her focus to her computer, or at least she tried to. But deep down, she knew something had shifted, even if she didn't want to admit it out loud. By the time she packed up to leave, the sky outside had turned a soft evening blue. Most of her co-workers had already left, and the office had grown quiet. She stepped into the hallway and slowed when she saw Rowan standing near the far end, speaking with someone from another department. His posture was relaxed, hands tucked into his pockets, expression balanced as always. But when he noticed her, something subtle changed in his eyes. Not a dramatic shift. Not a lingering stare. Just a small, honest acknowledgement, like he was silently checking in without saying a word. It startled her how much that one look affected her. When his conversation ended, Rowan walked toward her with unhurried steps. You heading out? He asked softly. She nodded. Yes. You too. In a minute, he said. I wanted to ask, how's your breathing? Amora's heart paused. Her breathing? No one asked questions like that. No one remembered details like that. She lowered her gaze for a moment. Better than earlier, she admitted. Thank you for noticing. Rowan stood beside her, leaning slightly against the wall, not in a casual way, but in a respectful, comfortable way. He wasn't crowding her. He wasn't pressing her to explain. He was simply present. That wasn't a one-time thing, he said quietly. She looked up at him. What do you mean? I've noticed it before, Rowan said. You take small, shallow breaths when you're overwhelmed. Most people don't see it. But I do. Her chest tightened, not from anxiety this time, but from the depth in his voice. She didn't know whether to be embarrassed or grateful. You shouldn't have to hide things like that, he added gently. Not from everyone. Something inside her softened in a way she hadn't expected. Why do you pay attention? She asked before she could stop herself. Rowan hesitated. His eyes shifted, not nervously, but thoughtfully. As if he were choosing his words with care. Because, he said softly, people don't usually notice when someone is trying to stay strong. But I've been there. So I recognize it. Amora's breath caught, this time for a different reason entirely. There was a story in his voice. Something he hadn't said yet. Something he carried quietly. She felt it. But before she could respond, Rowan straightened slightly. Not stiffly, just enough to show he was about to say something more. I'm not trying to make things complicated, he said gently. I just want you to know that you're seen. Her stomach fluttered with something she didn't want to define too quickly. Before she could reply, someone down the hall called Rowan's name, breaking the moment. He glanced toward the voice, then back at her. I'll walk you down tomorrow, he said softly. If that's okay. Amora nodded, even though her heart was doing quiet, unexpected things inside her chest. As he walked away, she realized something she hadn't been ready to face earlier. This wasn't just kindness. This wasn't just attentiveness. This was something else beginning. Something she wasn't sure she could step away from now. And it scared her in a strangely beautiful way. Some promises are small. But sometimes, the small ones mean the most. Amora didn't expect Rowan to remember what he said the day before. She assumed it might have been one of those gentle, fleeting moments that people forget once life gets busy again. But he didn't forget. The next morning, just as she stepped into the building and adjusted the strap of her bag, she heard his voice behind her, steady, warm, unmistakably him. "Good morning, Amora." She turned, surprised at how easily her heart recognized his tone before her eyes did. Rowan stood a few steps away, hands in his pockets, expression calm but touched with something softer. He walked toward her, not rushed, not hesitant, just deliberately present. "I said I'd walk you up," he reminded her quietly. Her chest warmed. She nodded, unable to hide the small smile forming at the edge of her lips. They entered the elevator together, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. But it wasn't awkward. If anything, the silence had a quiet comfort to it, like the air between them understood something they hadn't said yet. Rowan glanced at her gently. "You slept better." She blinked. "You can tell. You're breathing differently today," he said. "More steady. And your shoulders aren't as tense." No one had ever noticed her in this way before. Not the subtle shifts. Not the small details. Not the things she didn't even notice about herself. "Rowan," she said softly, "how do you catch things like that?" He gave a faint, almost shy smile. "Observing people helps me understand them. Anne. I pay attention when it matters." Her heart fluttered again. When it matters. Did she matter? Before she could say anything, the elevator doors opened. They stepped out, walking side by side toward her floor. The hallway was warm with early morning light spilling through the windows, making the moment feel softer, almost fragile. As they reached her department's door, Rowan paused. "There's something I want to ask," he said. She turned to face him fully. "What is it?" He hesitated, not out of uncertainty, but out of care. His eyes stayed steady on hers, searching but never invading. "You've looked tired for weeks," he said gently. "And I don't want to assume anything. But, is something weighing on you?" His voice held no pressure. No demand. Just a quiet offer, a place where she could exhale if she wanted to. Amora opened her mouth, but the words tangled before they could form. She had never been good at talking about herself. She was the listener, the one who kept everyone else steady. But Rowan didn't look away. He didn't rush her. He waited, patient, present, sincere. She took a slow breath. "I've been trying to handle a lot alone," she admitted. "Work, family things, life. I thought I was managing, but I guess it's catching up." Rowan nodded gently, as if he understood more than she said. "You don't have to prove anything by holding everything alone," he said. "You're allowed to be human." The words hit her unexpectedly hard. Her throat tightened, not painfully, just with a sudden wave of emotion she hadn't prepared for. "Thank you," she whispered. He gave a warm, steady smile. "Anytime." She didn't mean to stare, but something about his presence made her feel steadier, calmer, and strangely safe. Before she knew it, Marin walked into the hallway and spotted them. "Good morning," Marin started, then her eyes widened slightly at seeing Rowan standing so close to Amora. "Oh, I didn't know you two were talking." Amora felt heat rush to her cheeks. "We were just." Rowan spoke softly, without hesitation. "I was checking in on her. It's been a long week." Marin raised her brows with a knowing smirk but said nothing more before heading down the hall. Amora exhaled, flustered. Rowan chuckled under his breath, not mocking, just lightly amused. "I think she likes making stories up in her head," he murmured. Amora laughed softly. "She definitely does." Rowan's expression shifted then, slightly more serious, slightly more vulnerable. "Just so you know," he said, "I'm not concerned with what people assume. I just want to be here for you. If you'll let me." Her breath caught. He said it like he meant it. Like it wasn't casual. Like it wasn't passing. And it settled into her chest like something she wasn't sure how to hold. Her voice faltered. She didn't know how to respond, not yet. But Rowan didn't push. He just nodded once, as if telling her that her pace was enough. "I'll see you later," he said quietly before stepping back. As he walked down the hall, she watched him with a mix of hope, confusion, and something warm she was finally beginning to recognize. But she didn't know that later, just a few hours from now, Rowan would notice something about her that not even she was prepared to face. And that moment would shift everything between them again. Some moments don't announce themselves. They arrive quietly. And yet, they change everything. By midday, the office felt heavier than usual. Deadlines piled up, messages kept pinging, and the air carried that tense energy everyone felt but no one said out loud. Amora tried to stay focused, but her thoughts drifted again and again toward Rowan. She kept recalling the way he looked at her that morning, steady, patient, as if seeing through everything she tried so hard to keep hidden. She tried to shake it off. She had work to finish. She had responsibilities to meet. She didn't have time to get caught in her own thoughts. But life had different plans. Around early afternoon, while she reviewed a long report, a wave of dizziness hit her. Not strong enough to make her fall, but enough to make the room feel farther away than it should. She inhaled slowly, steadying herself. She didn't want anyone to notice. She especially didn't want to draw attention. But she didn't realize that Rowan, 2 floors above, was already noticing something she didn't know she had been giving away. Not long after, she stepped into the hallway to clear her head. She leaned lightly against the wall, taking slow breaths. Her hands trembled slightly, just enough that she tucked them into her pockets so no one would see. She thought she was alone. She thought no one would notice. But she didn't hear Rowan until he was only a few steps away. "Amora?" She looked up sharply. He must have taken the stairs instead of the elevator, because his breathing was low and steady, not rushed, but as if he came with intention. "What are you doing here?" she asked softly. "I came to check on the file you needed," he said, then paused. "But that isn't why I stopped." His eyes narrowed, not in suspicion, but in the way someone looks when they're focusing on something deeply. "You're doing it again," he murmured. "The way you're breathing. The way your shoulders pull inward." Amora's heart tightened. She tried to straighten up, pretending she was fine, but that only made Rowan take one step closer, not invading her space, but enough to show he wasn't convinced. "You're overwhelmed," he said quietly. "More than this morning." She swallowed hard. "I'm just tired. It's nothing. Amora." His voice softened. Not demanding. Not sharp. Just filled with quiet concern. "You don't have to pretend with me." Her throat tightened. She didn't want to break down, not here, not now, not in front of him. She wanted to stay composed, to look steady. But Rowan's presence made the truth harder to hide. He glanced at her hands tucked into her pockets. "They're shaking again, aren't they?" She looked away. "A little." "Come sit," he said gently, motioning toward the empty break room behind them. She hesitated. "I'm okay." And then Rowan said something that stopped every argument she had ready. "You don't have to earn being cared about." The words hit her like a soft, unexpected blow. Her breath caught. Her eyes stung lightly. She didn't know whether to step forward or step back. Slowly, she let him guide her to one of the chairs near the window. Sunlight spilled across the floor in warm patterns. Rowan pulled a chair in front of her, not too close, but close enough to show he was there. He leaned forward slightly, elbows resting loosely on his knees. "You've been pushing yourself for weeks," he said softly. "Anyone would feel worn down." She lowered her gaze. "I didn't think it showed." "It did," Rowan replied gently. "Just not to everyone. But I see the things you try to hide." Her heart fluttered in a way she couldn't control. "How?" she whispered. He thought for a moment, then spoke with a raw honesty she wasn't expecting. "Because I used to hide those same things," he said. "And I wished someone would notice." The room grew even quieter. His voice wasn't dramatic. It wasn't heavy. It was simply real. "What did you do?" she asked softly. I tried to carry everything alone until I couldn't anymore, he said. And it took me a long time to realize that letting someone in isn't weakness. She looked up at him then, really looked. He wasn't perfect or unshakable. He wasn't untouched by life. He wasn't distant the way she once thought. He was human, steady, and trying, just like her. Rowan leaned back slightly, giving her space to breathe. You don't have to tell me everything, he said. But let me help you breathe through this moment. Something inside her softened, slowly, carefully, like a door she kept locked finally creaking open. She took a long breath in. Rowan mirrored the motion. Their rhythms found each other in quiet synchrony. And for the first time in weeks, Amora felt her chest loosen. There you go, Rowan murmured. Just like that. His voice was steady, grounding her in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. When she finally opened her eyes, Rowan was looking at her not with worry, not with judgment, but with something deep and steady. Something she didn't dare name yet. Thank you, she whispered. You never have to thank me, he said. I'm here. That's enough. She knew then that something powerful was shifting between them, something neither of them had planned for, yet neither seemed willing to step away from. But just as the moment settled, someone walked past the break room, calling her name urgently. Something had happened at her desk. Something she couldn't ignore. And Rowan's expression changed instantly, concern sharpening in his eyes. The next moment would test everything she had just begun to trust. Some endings are soft. Some are quiet. But some feel like a beginning disguised as an ending. Amora stood from her chair the moment she heard her name called from the hallway. Rowan rose with her instantly, his calm expression tightening with worry, not overly, just enough to show he was already preparing to follow her. They stepped out of the break room together, and Marin rushed toward her. Amora, your supervisor needs you. Something about the report you submitted this morning. Amora swallowed. Did something go wrong? Marin hesitated. It looks like there was a mix-up in one section. He wants you to come take a look. Rowan glanced at Amora immediately. Take your time, he told Marin gently. She just needs a second. Marin nodded, then hurried away. Amora pressed a hand to her forehead. I thought I triple-checked everything. You did, Rowan said softly. Let's go see what's happening. And I'm coming with you. She looked up at him. You don't have to. He gave a small, almost amused breath. I know. But I want to. Those 5 words steadied her more than she expected. They walked side by side down the hall. Rowan didn't crowd her. He didn't try to take control. He simply stayed close enough that she felt supported, but not overwhelmed. When they reached her supervisor's office, he greeted her with a concerned but not accusatory expression. Amora, thanks for coming. There's just one paragraph in your report that needs clarification. It's an easy fix, we just need to redo that section before sending it out. Relief washed through her. I can redo it now. Rowan stepped back, letting them talk, but she noticed he stayed near the door, as if ready to help if she needed him. Her supervisor handed her the file and smiled warmly. You've been doing great work. I know you've had a heavy workload. If you need to step out for a break afterward, go ahead. Amora nodded gratefully and stepped out with the papers in her hands. When she did, Rowan was already waiting. What happened? He asked. It's fixable, she said with a relieved exhale. Just a small correction. He smiled softly. Good. But he didn't walk away. He didn't let the moment fade. He studied her for a second, long enough that she felt seen again. You handled that well, he said. Even when you were overwhelmed. She shifted the papers in her hand, heat rising in her cheeks. I'm trying. You're doing more than trying, Rowan said. You're carrying so much, and you're still showing up every day. That matters. No one had ever said that to her. Not in that tone. Not with that sincerity. She took a steady breath. Rowan, earlier, in the break room, you said you used to hide things too. He nodded. Do you still? She asked quietly. He hesitated, then shook his head. Not as much anymore. What changed? His eyes softened, steady and warm. I stopped pretending I didn't need people. The words landed between them like a gentle truth they both understood. She held his gaze. And what about now? Now? Rowan stepped slightly closer, still giving her space, still so careful. Now I'm learning to let people in before I fall apart. The air around them felt different, fuller, warmer, meaningful. And, he added quietly, I'm learning that noticing someone is sometimes the first step toward caring about them. Her breath caught. He wasn't hinting. He wasn't circling around anything. He was offering something real. Amora lowered her eyes, overwhelmed in the best possible way. You've noticed so many things about me, she whispered. Things I didn't think anyone ever would. Rowan tilted his head, his voice gentle. I notice because you matter. A soft silence stretched between them, not empty, not awkward. Just waiting. Amora's heart felt full, fragile, and completely open. For the first time in a very long time, she didn't feel hidden or overlooked. She felt seen. Truly seen. She looked up at him. Rowan. I don't know what this is yet. You don't have to, he said softly. We can take it one moment at a time. Her chest warmed. I'd like that. He smiled, a real one, not the polite one he usually gave at work. It was warm and honest, the kind of smile someone gives when they feel safe enough to let their guard down. Good, he murmured. Because I want to keep noticing things about you. Not just the difficult things, but the good ones too. Amora felt something inside her shift, quiet but certain. Maybe this wasn't just an unexpected moment. Maybe it was the start of something gentle and steady, something she didn't know she needed until now. They walked toward the lobby together at the end of the day. The evening light through the glass doors gave everything a golden softness. Rowan held the door for her, his expression thoughtful. Tomorrow, he said, let me walk you up again. This time, she didn't hesitate. I'd like that. He nodded once, the corners of his mouth lifting. And as they stepped outside into the warm, fading light, Amora realized something simple but powerful. Some people notice things. But some notice you. And when they do, it changes everything.